Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox, and today I want to talk about EMP-NU. What you can do, what you should do, what you might want to think about, those types of things. First though, thanks for all of the advice on my truck. As it turns out, the two mechanics, Shofarian mechanics, were right. I switched out the starter with a brand new starter and that baby fired right up. So I'm going to take the old starter back, turn it in and get my core charged back for it. A lot of you said that it probably worked in the shop when they tested it, but once it's under load it won't work, and that's probably what happened. Anyway, I'm turning that old greasy piece of junk back in. Get a couple bucks. All right, EMP, a lot of people talking about EMP, a lot of people saying the sky is falling on the 4th of November. I got a YouTube video going up on that, which may already be up. I'm trying to load it. Let's talk about EMP. How likely is an EMP event, whether it's caused by a nuke, being set off with the purpose of creating an EMP, or a nuke going off that just as a secondary purpose sets off EMP, it's meant to blow stuff up and EMP happens? Or is it a coronal mass ejection like the, the something event back in the 1800s that fried all the electronic telegraph wires, things like Carrington event? How likely is it? I don't know. Sorry. I tell you this though, your government thinks that it is likely enough that they're spending millions and millions of dollars not only studying it but exercising response plans, and that's taking place starting the 4th, also in conjunction with all the Antifa riots. So they're spending a lot of money on it. A good book, 1 second after, I think it's after, it might be later. Go ahead and read that, and then there's 1 year later. But it's interesting, and that's kind of like a worst case scenario. And people will debate whether it's likely or not, whether North Korea in their satellite that goes over the United States a couple times a day could pop one, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what people think, including me. It matters what is. And so there's that, how likely. If one happens, how devastating, how severe will it be? Again, I don't think anybody knows. I think there's a lot of guessing. There's a lot of scientists whose probably sole job is working this. There's a lot of money that goes in the military to hardening systems and protecting things against EMP emissions. There are people at one end of the spectrum who go, it'll be nothing, all the way to the other end of the thing that the sky is falling and everything's gonna fry, man. Again, it really doesn't matter what they think, and it really doesn't matter what I think. It matters what is, if and when it happens. And that's what you're gonna have to deal with. My personal modus operandi is to always plan for worst case scenarios. If I'm planned and prepared for a worst case scenario, then the simple stuff is simple. Right? It's easy to deal with if I'm prepared for total chaos, and it's just a little bit of drama. No big deal. And so, I don't know. It's a function of my personality, my training, my background. I like to go hard, right? And or be prepared to go hard. You don't have to start out hard, but be prepared for bad things. And so, to that end, there's a lot of focus on protecting electronics, because if an EMP goes off, the theory is an electromagnetic pulse, it's going to fry circuits, and circuits are no longer going to work, and therefore your radios and everything electronic could possibly be fried and not work. And so to protect ourselves against that, there's shielding, and there's disconnecting of antennas, and there's Faraday cages of various kinds. I have tried, and I don't know if I did a video or not, it didn't work, so maybe I didn't do a video, to do the galvanized trash can lined with cardboard, lined with aluminum foil with all my electronics in it, grounded. I did not ground it, and I did not tape over the rivet holes. It is my intent to get to that, to tape over the rivet holes, and when I do, and I test it, I'll do a video on it for us. And then I'm going to take that trash can, I'm going to put my electronics, my radios and things like that I want to preserve into it, and I'm going to stick that inside a 55-gallon barrel with a sealed lid. Again, I'll ground that too. I've got lots of grounding rods for electric fence and such. And, you know, it's the best I can do. But let's talk about that. Oh, and then we have a Shofarian who is building a 6x6 cube Faraday cage for all the Shofarians to put stuff in, right? And he's an electronics guru kind of guy, and he thinks he can get this thing done. Okay, cool. I know certainly that the government has Faraday cages. I've been in some of them. And so it's a real thing. What can you do? The best you can with what you got, where you're at. You know, do your research. I'm not the expert on that. Decide if you want to do it. But here's what I want to get to, protecting electronics. I guess if it's a CME, a coronal mass ejection, it's kind of like a one and done thing. You know, the sun will burp or whatever and everything gets fried and then it's not frying anymore. And so if you had stuff protected, you could then pull it out and use it and you'd be good. I got to tell you, if I'm the enemy, if I'm planning as an offensive use of an EMP weapon against somebody, I'm going to pop one, fry the circuits, you know, that I can assess, and then, I don't know, a period of time later, probably not that long, but a period of time, maybe a week or two, I'm going to pop another one, because that lets everybody bring their stuff out of their Faraday cages and start using it to deal with their chaos, and then I pop another one and fry those. So think about that, you know, maybe determining what the cause of the EMP was, which will be kind of difficult when your internet's not working and your cell phone's not working. I know, right? But if it was an offensive use of EMP, I think they would do it again, you know, after you get everything out. So when do you break your stuff out of your Faraday cages? 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is even better, right? Something like that maybe. So that's something to think about with your electronics. Protecting your electronics. I'm kind of back and forth on this. Granted, I'm not the commo guy, never have been. I don't have a love. I love push to talk, but I don't like figuring out how to do that. I like having people that can figure out how to do that. The details, the schmetails. But, you know, if the grid goes down, what good is pulling your ham radio out and firing that bad boy up going to do you if nobody else's ham radio works? What good is having your AM radio, you know, that you can tune for information if nobody else's works? Now maybe, you know, I know the arguments. Well, the government will have hardened systems and they'll be broadcasting information. Yeah, I trust that information so much. I mean, I guess any information is better than no information, but maybe not. You know, I just don't know. My thought is that the Shofarians all put our radio systems in the Faraday cages, and then after the event, and then we'll have a discussion, and then maybe wait for the second event. But at some point, pulling those bad boys out and being able to use radios and having group comms when nobody else does could be a real combat multiplier, right? You know, it could be a real plus, a real asset. But as far as, you know, making your electric radio, I mean your electric clock radio or your blender or any of that stuff work, you know, I just don't see that happening. So I tell people that, and I did a video on it, like the 2 most dangerous things in Tiawaki or something like that. And I referenced it in a talk that I gave recently. But the 2 most dangerous things in a Tiawaki SHTF situation are not, you know, like EMP or a nuke or a plague or whatever. It's what results from those. And I think the 2 most dangerous things are starvation and people behaving badly. In an EMP, assuming it shuts down, let's assume a bad one. And if it's not as bad, then any preparations you do towards a bad one will solve the medium-term one, right? I told you, I plan for the end. It's like the 5th time I'm shooting this, so I'm repeating myself a little bit. But let's say the trucks stop. Well, if the trucks stop, there's no food going to the grocery stores. If there's no food going to the grocery stores, there is no more food. And so you're stuck with what you have and are able to grow and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, starvation could be a real thing. And I tell you, it will be a real thing for millions of people in the United States. There are millions and millions, tens of millions of people in the United States who are woefully unprepared and depend on the system, which in the case of an EMP won't be functioning real well. And so they will die of starvation and disease and everything else. I mean, that book, 1 Second After, has some horrifying scenarios like what happens in an old folks' home. You know, when all the power's out and doesn't come back on, it's not coming back on, that kind of thing. And so you're going to have to be able to fend for yourself, and food is a big thing. People behaving badly, just do some research and I haven't for this video, but I have in the past, on what happens when the lights go out in big cities, like a normal power outage in the big city. The thugs, dun 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 dun. What is it? The thugs come out at night. The creeps come out at night. The punks come out at night. Something. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Isn't that a Michael Jackson song? Oh my God. But hey, yeah, when it goes crazy, the people are going to go wild for a while, and they're going to do dangerous things because they just get this wild feeling of we can get away with it. And so personal protection is a real thing. People behaving badly, the best way you can protect yourself from that is not your Glock or your AR-15 or your shotgun loaded with number 4 buck. It's being away from people. People aren't going to behave badly out here where I live when the lights go out. They're going to behave normally, like they always do, because out here in the country, the lights do go out sometimes, and people don't do anything crazy. And so I think it's creeps. The creeps come out at night. Somebody will tell me. But you're going to have to be prepared to take care of yourself. And most of you live in the suburbs. I get that. Or the cities. That's where most Americans live. There will be initially people behaving badly, maybe not in your particular neighborhood, but in nearby neighborhoods. And if it's a really bad thing, fires are going to start and not be put out. And then people are going to be roaming around in gangs doing what they want to do because the man ain't out there, you know, that kind of thing. And so you're going to have to do all the things, all the prepper things we talk about. Hopefully your neighborhood can seal off your road and protect the people and that kind of thing. And that'll last for a while until your neighbors start getting hungry and see that you're not losing weight. You know, I mean, then you've got hungry people with guns and just horrible. But those are things you might, I've got notes here. Those are things you might want to think about as people behaving badly. But what about this? You know, that's good stuff for drama and movies and books and doomer porn videos, man. That's why you need all this stuff and all this ammo and all these guns. In a lot of cases, Americans behave well under adversity. They help out their neighbors. They do what they can to relieve suffering. I mean, look at the Cajun Navy. You know, it's just a bunch of good old boys who fish for fun, for profit, for whatever. And when things happen in the Gulf and people need rescuing, all these guys show up. Excuse me, gotta get my notes. All these people show up with their personal boats and they go help people. And the government doesn't like it because they don't control it, right? But I mean, that's people behaving well and they're trying to help people. And so that'll happen too a lot. So, you know, you don't have to go into the total doomer mode. Don't necessarily shoot the person walking up your driveway. He could be coming up to see if y'all are all right and need anything, you know? So there's that. How do you prepare for an EMP? I think it's simple. I have a simple way to prepare for an EMP. Prepare for the 1800s. 1800s, before electricity came to this land, right? In any kind of real way. Be prepared to live that way. That doesn't mean you have to live off-grid now, but it means you have to be able to live off-grid. I was just talking to somebody who bought a house, and their plan is to set the house up to be off-grid. And right now it's totally on-grid. You know, it has flush toilets, hot and cold running water, and electricity. But they're going to take that house and convert it to be an off-grid house, which doesn't mean that they're going to then pull the plug on their utilities. They haven't decided yet. But they'll have that option, right? And so you can start doing things now like water catchment, because the water ain't going to flow out of your pipes when there's no electricity. Somewhere there's a pump pumping that water to your house. And so you can start your water catchment system like we do out here, or you can go to Off-Grid Victory, which is a Shafarian brother who's got a lot of videos on how he's living off-grid and set up his water catchment. You can install wood stoves in your home and then secure yourself some wood. You know, whether you have to buy it at city prices or whatever, get yourself a big load of wood, because I'm getting to this point at my last point. There's going to be more wood available later. But for now, you're going to need to get through the winter, you know, or whatever. Think 1800s. You should have enough food to get you through the next, you know, summer, at least at a minimum. So that you can plant a garden. Have a plan where you're going to plant your garden. If you don't have one now, be prepared to fail. All those homesteading things, think about that. Start researching 1800s lifestyle. How do you cook outside without your propane grill? Right? How do you cook over fire? And you can start practicing all that stuff now, and it's fun. take the family out, pick a nice fall day, go start a campfire, cook some soup, bake some bread in your Dutch oven like Following Yeshua just did on their video. Just have fun with it. But then if something happens, you guys will be able to just switch over to 1800s lifestyle without missing a beat. You looking for a hobby? There's those recreators, the mountain men recreators, the long rifleman recreators, the 1800s, 1700s recreators. Hey, if you're of a mind, do that. Start learning those skill sets and stuff. And so that's what I think you can do. I think that's the easiest way to prepare for an EMP is be prepared to live an 1800s lifestyle. Now, we have we have more knowledge than they had in the 1800s. We know about more things, so you should actually be able to do it easier and better, right? If you want to. But like everything else, preparation, doing the preparation now will set you up so much better in the future. So think about that. Maybe instead of buying another flat screen TV, you buy some cast iron cookware and Dutch ovens and stuff like that. Something like that. And then finally, I think the biggest detriment / bonus, that's a hard word to say with this, for a massive, devastating EMP strike is going to be death. People are going to die by the boatload. Downside of that, people are going to die. There's going to be bodies piling up. There's going to be disease. There's going to be dogs running around eating dead bodies. It's going to stink. You're going to have to deal with that in your area. I suggest funeral pyres, right? Have a plan for that. I consulted with some emergency management people in Missouri once, and they were worried about pandemic flu coming. They thought it was real. And in their county, they thought they were going to have 50,000 dead in 72 hours. And I asked the woman what her plan was for dealing with the bodies. And she goes, we're squared away. We've got like 70,000 body bags that we got. I said, okay, so you stick them in body bags and then what? She didn't like that. So then we had a little sidebar roundtable discussion on that. And what we basically decided is we're going to use the Walmart parking lot kerosene that they were going to stock in advance at their county shop and bulldozers, and we're going to burn people. I mean, what else are you going to do, man? So yeah, it's sad, right? You could do a mass grave, sure, but I can't remember why they didn't want to do that. Like dig it out with a big scoop and put the bodies in it. They just decided they're going to cremate them, keep records, and blah, blah, blah. Whatever, man. That's the point. There's going to be a lot of dead people. So that's a downside. They'll die for a myriad of reasons, right? But they're going to die. The upside. Remember I told you about firewood? Well, when the area is suddenly depopulated by some calculations 90%, there's going to be a lot of resources left around, right? You'll have wood to burn, you'll have food to eat, canned food to eat, and stuff like that if you get through the initial onslaught and survive. And so, yeah, just prepare yourself for that if it happens. But yeah, if you want to get prepared for EMP, just get prepared for 1800s lifestyle. And check it out. If you get prepared for an 1800s lifestyle, you're prepared for almost everything, right? Basic preparedness covers a myriad of scenarios. Don't let yourself get all huffy-puffy about the 4th coming up in this exercise. I really don't think it's anything. But you can use it as a platform to get you and yours, your group, or whatever, thinking, talking, getting ready. I had a call from a friend today, and he said, what do you make about this? And we're going to do some drills during it, in case something happens. I said, yeah, it's always good to do drills, and if this has your people's interest, and they're like, yeah, we need to talk about this, cool, turn that into action, right? Let's all get together and practice this. Let's practice that. That's it. No fear, just constant, steady forward motion. I wish you all the best, and I will see you out there.